space between neurons. So all of the neurons, there's 100 billion neurons in your brain, but none of them touch. I have a video that's going to back this up that can show those. So basically, when a neuron has an action potential, it sends a sub-threshold event, a graded potential. Okay, a graded potential is a sub-threshold event that decreases over time and space. I'm going to say that again. A sub-threshold event that decreases over time and space. One more time, a sub-threshold event that decreases over time and space. So basically, when an action potential occurs, a neurotransmitter can give one of two responses. It can either give an excitatory response, or it could give an inhibitory message. So we're going to be learning about neurotransmitters. A neurotransmitter is a brain chemical. So once we have an action potential, what we learned about in Chapter 2 is it sends a message down the axon and then it releases a neurotransmitter. The neurotransmitter can only give one of two messages, either excite or inhibit. But it can't create an action potential in another axon by itself because each message that it gives is a graded potential. It's a sub-threshold event that decreases over time and space. So I'm sure that this is all kind of confusing. So what I do is, first of all, is with the Synapse in my classes, what I do is I start off by going down the row, and I put one hand on the person's shoulder, and then I use the other hand to whisper in their ear, and I say, the synapse is the space between neurons. And then I go to the next person, the synapse is the space between neurons. And then the next person, the synapse is the space between neurons. And then the next person, the synapse is the space between neurons. Now the rest of the people in class are all looking around like saying, what is she doing? Because I'm whispering in their ear. And then I stop and I say, okay class, so I wasted your time, more than usual, right? And they're looking at me like, why did you do that? And then I say to them, I said, did I touch them? And, they look kind of confused, but I say, absolutely, I touched them. I touched them with two hands. I didn't just have one hand. And what I said to them was, I said, the synapse is the space between neurons. And I said, if I had to touch each one of you in class to give you that one sentence, by the time that I went through the whole class, half of the class would be over. So the great thing about having a space between neurons is that right now I'm the teacher, so I'm sending a message out to you, and I'm saying the synapse is the space between neurons. And some of you can get that message and say, wow, that's so exciting. The synapse is the space between neurons. And some of you can get that message and get inhibited and say, oh my God, how much longer in this class? And then others of you can, I throw that message out there, the synapse is the space between neurons, and you were daydreaming or something and you say, what did you say something? So basically this is how the neuron works. So basically what I do, a neuron, me, okay, I'm a neuron, I give a message, I throw it out into the space, the synapse between us, and I say, hey, the synapse is the space between neurons. And some of you will get excited by it, some of you will get inhibited by it, and some of you have no clue that I'm saying anything. Now, so there's that part of it. Now let's go to this graded potential. How can we relate that to life? So I don't think that I can truly make or break any of your days just by one thing that I say. So if I say, you know what, you don't look good today, I think that maybe that would be an inhibitory response and it would kind of cut you, but I don't think it's like really going to deeply wound you because I'm just one person. And if I say, wow, you look really great today, I don't think that I can totally make your day, but I could give you a little bit of excitation by just one thing that I said. So that's what I'm trying to tell you is a single neuron sends a message out there, but it's something that will decrease over time and space. Now, what if you had had a bad morning all morning? I mean, just this went wrong and this went wrong and this went wrong and this person was mean to you and this person yelled at you, and then I come in here and I'm like, you know what? You look like crap today. Now, is there a chance that I might get totally just absolutely you go crazy on me? Probably, yes, right? But that's because these graded potentials, they added together over time or space. So basically, a neurotransmitter can give one of two messages. It can give an EPSP, an excitatory postsynaptic potential. It's giving an excite message. Or an IPSP, which is an inhibitory postsynaptic potential message, which would be an inhibition. But they can't cause a major action potential, or they can't cause a major inhibition unless they have something called summation. So summation is when the graded potentials add together. So temporal summation is when they add together over time. Okay, time. Spatial summation is when EPSPs add together over space. So let's draw this so you can see it. Okay, so here's our neuron. Okay, don't worry, we're going to have a video that will explain this too, so you have different ways of doing this. Okay, so all along the neurons, in the nervous system, there's 100 billion other neurons, so each one of these X's are other neurons. And so what they're doing is they are sending messages at every moment. We're receiving messages at every moment. So if this neuron, so we know that the inside of this cell is -70 when it's at rest, right? But this neuron sends a message, an excitatory message. But we know that an EPSP is a sub-threshold event that decreases over time and space. So it can't take this from a -70 to a -55. It doesn't work that way. Because when this neuron sends a message, it can only give like a graded potential. So this one might say excite. So this one might bring it to -68. But what if I say, what if it hits it again, if it gives another EPSP right away? So then it would bring it to a -66. And then what if it gives another EPSP? It would bring it to a -64. And then another EPSP, -62. And then another EPSP, -60. Okay, and then another EPSP, -58. And then another EPSP, -56. Ooh, -56. And then, ooh, the one more EPSP, we got a -54. Oh no, -54. Boom, 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 boom. Oh my gosh, we have an action potential. Yay! So look, temporal summation is over time, and it's from like a single neuron just sending a message. It would be like this. So you walk into class and I say, oh, you look like crap today. So that might irk you, but that's not going to make you go crazy. But then if I say it again, I'm talking that you really look like crap today. Oh my God, how could you get up out of that bed looking like that? Oh my God, you know, I can't even sit next to you. You look so bad. Everybody, do you see how bad they look? Oh my gosh, really? I'm telling you, really bad. Do you see how like my thing, just a single me over time, that after I said it enough times, you'd be like, that's enough. Okay, so that would be temporal summation. Now, spatial summation would be if this one said excite, then this one said excite, so this would bring it to -68, this would bring it to a -66, this would bring it to a -64, this would bring it to a -62, this one simultaneously -60, this one would be a -58, this would be a -56, oh my gosh, and then we could do this one here, it would be a -54. So spatial summation is when the EPSPs combine over space. So the thing about you looking bad kind of thing is it would be like I say something to you as I say, ugh, that does not look good today. And then the person next to me says, yeah, really, it doesn't look good. And then the next person over there says, yeah, that looks bad. And then the next person over there says, you need to change that, girlfriend. Okay, right? So when all of these things, when a temporal summation is like a single source, it's going, the way I do it in class is one person, okay? This would be a temporal summation. Okay, one person is just bam, 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 bam. But spatial summation is what I do is I get the whole class all together, do just one clap. Okay, so if you remember chapter 2 lecture, with the all or none law, I tried to use the gun analogy, and I said, look, in the nervous system, the way it works is the size of the action potential is independent of the strength that initiated it, right? And I said, all action potentials are the same size. You know, if it hits threshold, that's it. But then I said, you've got to think of the nervous system like a gun. If I wanted to say I really, really, really am mad at you, what would I do with the gun? Is I wouldn't just shoot it once. I'd shoot it, 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 shoot it. So what do you think that is? Is that temporal summation or spatial summation? Do, 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 do. Okay, did you get it? It's temporal summation. Because the gun is just one gun. But then I said, look, there's another way that I could, in the nervous system, that you could show that you're really mad. And what you could do is you bring a whole gang of your friends, and all at once you just shoot the gun and just shoot. Okay? All right, let's try. So if I brought a whole gang of my friends, then that would be spatial summation. Let's try one more test for you. Okay? So this time we're going to do a little kid with his mom, a mommy, and kids in the grocery store. Okay. So if the little kid says to Mommy, can I have some candy? No. Mommy, can I have some candy? No. Mommy, can I have some candy, please? No. Mommy, can I have some candy, please? Please, Mom, I really want the candy. Please, Mom, I really want the candy. Mom, can I please have some candy? Mom! What would that be? Temporal summation or spatial summation? Okay, temporal summation. Now, how could you convert that to spatial summation? Let you think about it. Okay, spatial summation would be as if the mom had like 10 kids with her, and all at once they said, Mommy, can we have some candy? She'd be like, oh my God, just take the candy as long as you promise to be quiet. Shh, shh. Okay? So, we're at the end of chapter 3.1. In the nervous system, you have 100 billion neurons. None of them touch. At every given second, some of them are sending positive messages, some of them are sending excitatory messages, and some are sending inhibitory messages at every given second. But whether or not one single given neuron will have an action potential is the ratio of EPSPs to IPSPs. If the EPSPs significantly outnumber the IPSPs, then an action potential occurs. Okay? So at every minute, you have all of these things surrounding you. And if there's significantly more EPSPs to IPSPs, then this neuron will have an action potential. If the IPSPs outnumber the EPSPs, then the neuron will go into a state of inhibition. And you know what? You can think of this is kind of like life. At every minute, we have lots of forces on us, right? We have people that we have to deal with. We have all kinds of, this and that. And if most of the people that we deal with are positive and excitatory, then we feel excited. But if most of the people that we deal with are inhibitory and negative, then we kind of go into a state of inhibition. So hopefully that works for you.
When an action potential reaches the synaptic terminal of the axon, it encounters a region called the synapse where two neurons come close together but do not touch one another. A minuscule gap called the synaptic cleft separates the synaptic terminal of the first or presynaptic neuron from the dendrite or cell body of the second or postsynaptic neuron. The arrival of an action potential at the synaptic terminal causes the synaptic terminal to become positively charged and release neurotransmitters into the synaptic cleft. The neurotransmitters diffuse rapidly across the synaptic cleft and bind to receptors in the membrane of the dendrites or cell body of the postsynaptic cell. Each type of receptor in the postsynaptic membrane binds to a specific type of neurotransmitter, and after binding to a neurotransmitter, the receptor causes specific types of ion channels in the postsynaptic membrane to open. As ion channels are opened, ions flow across the cell membrane of the postsynaptic neuron along their concentration gradients. This flow of ions into the postsynaptic neuron causes a postsynaptic potential in the dendrites or cell body. Depending on the channels open and the ions that flow in, synaptic potentials can be either excitatory, making a neuron less negative inside and more likely to fire an action potential, or inhibitory, making it more negative and less likely to fire. An excitatory postsynaptic potential is called an EPSP. An inhibitory postsynaptic potential is called an IPSP. A synapse that produces EPSPs in the postsynaptic cell is called an excitatory synapse, while a synapse producing IPSPs is an inhibitory synapse. Postsynaptic potentials cannot travel far in a neuron. After a few millimeters at most, the ions leak back across the membrane and the signal is lost. However, postsynaptic potentials travel far enough to reach the cell body, where they determine whether or not an action potential will be produced.